In the past video, I talked about why new development and transit services are a dynamic duo that cannot be separated from one another. If you don't want to go and watch it, here's a quick recap. The reasons why transit needs new development, and vice versa, are because of potential lower costs of constructions and land acquisition, higher flexibility, lower risk of relocating people, higher quality, building good commuting habit, and increasing the political will from local governments to build cost-effective projects. This summary should be good enough to answer the second half of the question. How can that new development area welcome new transit services? If you have time, here's a good resource to start. You can find your own city's transit service or design guidelines as well, which are the standards that dictate the factors that will make them decide the scale of the services to introduce new transit services to a new neighborhood. There are multiple factors that should be taken into account when developing this scale, and it's different for each city based on context, population, and the culture of using public transit. The number one factor you may think of is population or population density. Some cities determine the service levels based on the number of people, while some rely on the number of households completed, while others would rely on how much the developed area is compared to its planned target. Based on the population, they can gradually introduce a service or immediately implement full, all-day services. There are other physical factors impacting the placement of service in the community. For example, the availability of curbs and sidewalks, the coverage of a bus stop, and the connectivity and accessibility of that bus stop. Many guidelines also consider if there are people who require mobility aids, transit shelters, and spaces between stops to install them in the neighborhood if deemed necessary. The first approach for transit in new development areas is on-demand transit. This is a demand-responsive transit service where riders would pre-book a trip from an area, then get transported to a terminal or another stop within the area. Basically, this feels like a taxi or shuttle service, but the taxi you're getting on is a bus, minibus, or even minivans, and you pay a fixed price for transit. The fleet can also go around the neighborhoods picking up people requesting the rides at the same time as you, and all of these routes are calculated by a software system. On-demand is cheaper than a fixed bus route, since it requires fewer fleets and operators to operate, yet can bring minimum transit services serving people. They are the first tier of adding transit services, since it is soft launching residents with the transit services it offers. It also has some reliable flexibility if the area's services do not have too high demands, which leads to my second approach, a peak-only bus route or a flexible bus route. This approach basically allows residents of a new neighborhood to access a fixed bus route, but only in the peak time of the day. This can be done by establishing a brand new bus route, or alter an existing route traveling nearby to cover the neighborhood during peak hours, which is a flexible route, as these are the most potential hours to generate ridership as people leaving home for work and coming home after their workday. This approach follows some prior research on the actual peak time of the neighborhood, as there are multiple different shifts of work and school that people may travel, not just the regular 9 to 5 like 40 years ago. The third approach is the implementation of a full service. This tier of service often happens once the neighborhood is fully developed or almost reaching the target. The full service here can run all day, with extra frequency during peak hours, or just happens during the day, and then get converted into a less frequent service or on-demand service during non-busy time, just to keep the operational and maintenance costs down. Full service in terms of higher capacity services like trains may involve branch routes where some trains cover the new neighborhood but at a lower frequency, while most trains follow the original route. Or, if the demand is not yet justified to run train services, shuttle or express buses can take people from the neighborhood to the nearest train station with services using the unopened station as the pickup and drop-off point. This shuttle and express service can also act as a way to soft launch the service, as residents can experience the service. Better yet, that pickup and drop-off point I said can be used again as a transfer point once the new train station finally opens. Well, I've been talking the whole time about some approaches. Now let's hear a real-life example, but to do that, I'll need to call a friend. What's up, man?
Good, what's up?
Good. Time to hop on the video.
Alright, I'll be ready in a second.
Alright, I'll see you there.
Alright folks, let's head on out of Canada land for just a second and jump on down to a city that's normally known for its car-dependent sprawl, its freakishly hot weather, and being the home of spring training baseball. Phoenix is a city that has been doing a surprising amount of transit building, but one new station really stands out from the rest. Metro Parkway, also known as the Thelda Williams Transit Center, opened just last month, becoming the new northern terminus station of the Valley Metro Light Rail. Now, if you take a look at the land use around the station, you'll notice that it mostly consists of an abandoned mall, parking lots, and a theme park. There are plans to eventually rezone the abandoned mall into TOD, but at the moment, Valley Metro is generating ridership by feeding local buses into the LRT station. The station also makes it easy to transfer from LRT to buses or from bus to bus. Feeding rail transit lines with local bus lines can massively benefit ridership even when land use around the station isn't ideal. But let's send it back to more than transit.
Thanks, Ethan. Everybody, please go check out Climate and Transit on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube if you haven't already. If you'd love to see me having more collaborations like this, please let me know in the comments. Okay, I promise that this is the last technical part of this video. These approaches provide services, but transit agencies should also evaluate them to upgrade or downgrade them based on the demand. Usually, a testing period should remain from 1 to 2 years, and the agencies can assess whether the service and demand are matching. To do so, they can look at the ridership information, the number of boarding and alighting, where and when people use the service. Other factors for review would also include the development process of the neighborhood, the fleet sizes and available operators, the cost of operation, budget, cost recovery, which is a topic for another video, and most importantly, engagement with transit users. Yes, residents play a very important role in maintaining a good service. You can call your city representatives, your councillors, or contact the people from your local transit agencies. Once all the elements are considered, the matching process between supply and demand can begin, where agencies can upgrade the route to have full service or better frequency, or change the fleet used to have a higher capacity, or downgrade that route to have a smaller fleet, limit the service to peak hours, low frequency routes, or on-demand transit, just to keep the operational costs down while still meeting the demand. The placement of new bus stops and infrastructures may also happen at this stage. You can watch my previous videos on bus stops to learn more. Public transit is the backbone of people's movement. Designing a great, reliable, and convenient system is the key to accessible and equitable mobility. Its success should not rely on the transit revenue, but rather the opportunities that it provides for the population. Transit will always be relevant to any conversations about development, as people deserve an equitable, safe, and convenient mode of travel regardless of where they live and what their social status is. So, if you have made it this far to the end of the video, I encourage you to nudge your municipal government to provide better transit services, and if you're a transit planner or municipal representative happen to watch this video right now, let the transit movement campaigns begin. I'd like to thank all my supporters who supported me via my Buy Me a Coffee page. If you'd like to see your names at the end of the video, check out the donation links in the bio. I appreciate any amount that you chip in, as making these videos require a lot of efforts, research, and also money for articles and books, but you help maintain my motivation. See you in the next videos.